Hello everybody, I am Moushumi Lahan from Assam Engineering Institute. Today I would like to talk about the software project planning and estimation techniques. So there are a few slides on that. So I start with defining what is software project management. First of all, we'll talk about what is a software. You all know by this time that software is an intangible product, and managing the preparation of an intangible product is very challenging. Then I come to define what is a project. Actually, a project, the basic thing of a project is that it has some objectives and it has to be finished within a specific period of time. It will be given some resources. So taking the resources within a fixed period of time, we are going to fulfill certain objectives. So that is what we can term it as a project. So now when we come to talk about software projects, the software projects are designed to fulfill certain requirements of a client. No two software projects are same, as the requirements of the clients differ. Whenever a software is supposed to be built or a project is built, the requirements of the clients takes a foremost position in that. The technologies and the environment in which the software has to function are different in different cases. So managing such software projects efficiently is the basic purpose of software project management. So by this time you must be convinced that software project management is very essential from 3 points of view. First, it has to fulfill the user requirements. Second, it has to be built within a budget. And the third point is within the time constraints. So we move on to the next slide. So now I would like to talk about what is project planning. Every management activity starts with planning, then we go for organizing, staffing, leading, and finally controlling. Before planning anything, if we start something, it never gives the desired output as we expect. Similarly, in case of projects also, we need to plan a project. So this activity of planning is always taken before the project starts. So now let us see what are the different points which are to be taken into consideration in case of project planning. The first point which I have pointed out here is to estimate the attributes of the project. There are different attributes as you can see in the slide. First point is the project size. The second is the cost. Third is the duration. The fourth is the effort. Project size is the first point from which the other estimations of cost, time, or effort starts. So it's very necessary to, first of all, determine the size of a project. So there are different matrices like LOC, lines of code, and function points, which determines the size of a project. So for the time being, let us concentrate on the points. Project size is the first point. This size depends on the complexity of the problem and also on the functions which are to be performed by the project, the environment, the data, the resources required for the project. So all these contributes to the size of the project. The second point is the cost. Once we determine the size, the cost of developing the project comes into being. The cost may be from the resources point of view, like human resource, the technology, resource. So from all these points, cost is the second point. Third is the duration. Duration, that is the time required to complete the project. And finally, the effort. The effort of, in case of software projects, are measured in person months or person years. So these are the 4 points under the first criteria of estimating the attributes of the project. For the second point, that is scheduling, manpower, and other resources. So while planning, we must plan and schedule regarding the manpower and the resources required in the project. We all know scheduling means at what time, which resource, and how much of manpower is required in the process of developing the project. So scheduling comes to the second point. Third is staff organization and staffing plans. Definitely, whenever there is a project, we will need people to work in it. So staffing refers to that. The fourth point is risk identification, analysis, and abatement planning. Every project has certain amount of risk. So identifying the risk, analyzing it, and making plans for mitigating those risks is mandatory part in case of planning. The fifth point comes to the miscellaneous plans regarding quality assurance, configuration, management plan, etc. So these are the 5 points which comes under the project planning activity. Now, once this planning activity is done, this needs to be documented. Actually, you see, this has to be documented in a document properly, which is known as the software project management plan. So once this planning activity is done, the software project management plan is prepared, which is a document, and the points in the document are placed here. First, we have the introduction, which includes the objectives, the major functions of the project, performance issues, management and technical constraints. The second point which has to be present in the plan is the estimates, the historical data used, estimation techniques used, effort, resources, cost, project duration, estimates. The third point is regarding the schedule, work breakdown structure, which we'll be talking later. That means every project has to be broken down into smaller. Similarly, as we break down a software into different modules, similarly, the project activities also need to be broken down into smaller parts, which is known as the work breakdown structure. We'll talk about that. Once we have this work breakdown structure, we need to form a network diagram. Which activity comes when? Then we prepare the Gantt chart. Gantt chart is the representation for resources, resource allocation representation. And we have the PART chart. We will be dealing all these in the future and next or the slides later on. PART is program evaluation review technique chart. This is also a representation where we come to know which activity, the duration of the activities, and the timing of the activities, which activity is done when. So these are the part of the schedule. The fourth point which which is necessary in the plan is the project resources, the people, the hardware and software, and any special resources required for the project. The special resources may refer to maybe data resource, maybe some technology resources. So these are necessary for the project completion. The fifth point is the staff organization. How do you organize the staff? What is the different types of team structure? Either we have chief programmer style, either we have a participative style, whatever team structure is appropriate for the project that is necessary to be mentioned in the plan. And the management reporting, who reports to whom. The hierarchy is very important in case of managing the project. The next aspect is the risk management plan, where the risks are identified, analyzed, the estimation of the risk, how much risk is possible, the probability of risk, and the risk abatement procedures. The next point refers to the project tracking and control plan. Once the project starts, side by side there should be a tracking and a control plan, so that there is no time or cost overrun in that case. So this tracking, monitoring, and controlling activity is very important, and it needs to be kept in the management planning document. And the last point, which is the miscellaneous plans, includes the process tailoring. Process refers to the project management process, how it has to be managed. Next is quality assurance plan, configuration management, validation and verification, testing plan, delivery, installation, and maintenance plan. So all these activities need, or all the functions need to be present in the management plan document, and is the result of the planning activity, which is done before the project starts. Now, I would like to show you this slide on the precedence ordering of planning activities. From where does the planning activity start? As I have already mentioned, that it starts with the estimation of the size, then the duration estimation, the effort estimation, the cost estimation. Once duration estimation is done, the staffing process, and finally the scheduling. So the activity, the precedence ordering of the activity, we cannot do scheduling before estimating the size. We cannot estimate the cost before we estimate the size. We cannot estimate the effort before we estimate the size. So these activities has a particular order of performance. So this slide refers to that. Next, I would like to speak about the different size estimation techniques. There are two popularly used techniques. One is the lines of code, the other is the function point. Lines of code refers to the number of lines that is required to develop the program. So determining the lines of code metrics actually needs having a lot of experience and working with projects of similar type, which helps in estimating the lines of code. On the other hand, the function point estimation refers to the different types of functions, like the number of inputs, the number of output screens, the number of data sources to be used. So these type of function points are taken to determine the project size. There are different techniques for estimating the size of the project. The important project parameters that are estimated, we had already seen there. The size is estimated, the effort is estimated, the duration is estimated, and the cost is estimated. So there are basically three broad categories of techniques. One is the empirical, the heuristic, and the analytical. The empirical estimation techniques are based on educated guess, or which are the judgment by the experts. So there are two popular techniques. One is the expert judgment technique, and the other is the Delphi cost estimation. The heuristic techniques refers to some assuming certain relationships between the project parameters. They are placed with some mathematical equations. Either it could be a single variable model or it could be a multivariable model. We will discuss about the COCOMO model, which is a heuristic technique and which is a single variable model. The analytical estimation techniques are derived starting with basic assumptions regarding the project. These analytical techniques has some scientific basis and it is based on mathematical derivations. Halstead's software science is a particular example of an analytical technique. Now, when we talk about project estimation or project management, software project management, we should know what are the different types of software projects. So according to Boehm, he had classified the software projects into 3 categories: the organic, the semi-detached, and the embedded. Those projects which deals with developing something which is very well understood and the size of the developed team is small, the team members are experienced, those type of projects come under the category of organic projects. If the development team consists of experienced, unexperienced, and the project consists of some unfamiliar aspects which are not dealt before, those types of projects come under the semi-detached category. And the third category which was made, it is based on embedding sort of a structure, like you have some complex hardware or some operational procedures which are existing, which is required for the project. Those type of projects are termed as embedded projects. Normally embedded projects are very complex. The organic projects are simpler than semi-detached, and semi-detached are simpler than embedded projects. So that's all for today. So just to revise, let us see what we have done today. First of all, we have learned what is software management planning about. Then we have seen the constituents of a software project management plan. We have seen the activities, precedence of activities required to prepare the, to manage the project, starting with starting with size estimation, and later the other activities. Then we have seen the different types of estimation techniques. And finally, we have winded up today's session with the different types of software projects. Thank you.